Hey everybody, I'm Diego, um, but I'm also a person. So I just want to talk to you today about being an adult and living with dyspraxia, which is a developmental coordination disorder. I was diagnosed with dyspraxia officially diagnosed when I was 24, 25. But there was discussion of me possibly having dyspraxia when I was 16. And even before that, there was queries about me possibly having some sort of something that might affect me and my development, both as a person and as an adult now. Um, to give you some context, if you don't know what dyspraxia is a developmental coordination disorder which can cause you to have problems with coordination, balance, and movement, which I have issues with in general, learning new skills, thinking and remembering information at work and in leisure activities. So, learning new skills is difficult for me. I seem to be stuck in my old ways, and the idea of learning something new, unless I see the benefit to it straight away, I struggle to understand why you would do it something that way. My thinking is sporadic, so much so that I feel like I have to control my own thinking. It's a bit difficult to explain. Remembering information at work is also an issue for me sometimes because I feel like I taught something or shown something by my co-workers and I won't remember it unless I've given myself a way of remembering it. It's difficult. It affects other issues as well, like daily living skills such as dressing and preparing meals. I've never been one for being able to cook or make myself a full meal. I usually, as a lot of people around me, my friends, my family say I cook like a university student, and that's true even now. Even though I'm 31, I still make like a piece of chicken in the oven and a tin of spaghetti on a saucepan, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that personally, but it's simple and there's no skill involved. And things like dressing myself, I usually wear the same boring, bland t-shirts because it's not a style thing. It's just to me that's like I don't understand the implications of wearing specific clothing for specific events, and to me it doesn't make any sense. Other issues it affects are just my writing, typing, drawing, holding objects, my motor skills really. Writing is difficult for me because I grip a pencil too hard. I can't draw very well. Even the simplest of shapes, like circles, I have no idea how to draw them properly, and I will have to draw it multiple times. Typing, even though I'm a software developer, I don't type properly with all my fingers in my hands. I only type with these two fingers here. So typing is more like this for me. It's difficult, yeah. Social situations I'm not good in. I never have been, and I don't have very many friends that I'm comfortable sharing a lot of information with. But then that you could say that all these sound like normal problems that other people would face, but they collectively are symptoms of dyspraxia that I suffer from. Dealing with my emotions can be difficult. I feel like sometimes I get overwhelmed with being too happy or too sad, or and depression is something that I have suffered before to a much bigger degree than I am currently am. It's not like an ongoing issue with people who have constant ongoing depression, but with dyspraxia, I struggle to deal with any sort of emotion. So for me to be feeling like hopeless or lost, I struggle to deal with that, and most people don't seem to understand. I also get told that I'm a bit emotionless at times. For example, when my granddad passed, and obviously everybody was upset about it. I was upset too, but I feel like the way that I portrayed that emotion to other people, the way that my emotions that I dealt with internally and what I showed was different to other people, and people questioned it. They didn't understand how I was, as some people said, so calm. But I wasn't inside. I was very upset, and it's incredibly it's a horrible thing to have to go through to lose somebody in your life. But unfortunately, that's I've come to accept that that does happen. And in your life you will lose people close to you, but it's understanding how to deal with that. I deal with that in a different way to the people. Um, you know, so another thing that dyspraxia affects in my life is my management, so time management, my planning, my personal organization. I'm quite meticulous in keeping things to time because it's one of the things that I'd rather be 10 minutes early than 10 minutes late. So I get to events and things way earlier than I need to, and just to try and overcompensate for things in general. I'm just basically reading off some of the things that it says on the website here, on the NHS website. But it's more understanding some of the stuff here that it speaks about that relates to me. Um, I mean, there's recommendations for things to help with this, such as occupational therapy to remain independent and manage everyday skills. But I feel like even I'm living here with a housemate, and I don't feel like I'm struggling in as a way that some other people with dyspraxia might. Um, my talking, I feel like sometimes I mumble and my voice is a bit slurred. I don't have very much control over the volume of which I talk. So sometimes I just randomly talk very loud. But it's different to the way that I talk in my head. So in my head, I talk with a lot of complex words, and I can string a sentence together in my head and talk to myself very quickly without thinking too hard. When it comes to saying those words out loud, I struggle. I feel like that part of my brain to convert a sentence I thought of in my head to actually talking to someone, that I find difficult. That's just one of the things that I've had to deal with, of how to deal with that, how to explain that to people. Um, my mum has explained to me that when I was young, I didn't speak until I was the age of 4. I had to go to cognitive behavioral therapy, to like a speech therapist, as they used to call them, to try and get me to talk. And the first few words that I said were swear words because that's what I picked up from my dad and the people around me, and that's the first words that I said. Um, there's a lot of things they recommend, to get around issues with dyspraxia. One of the things is obviously regular exercise to reduce the feeling of fatigue and prevent weight gain. And I've struggled with my weight, and I've struggled with exercise in general because my coordination is affected as well. So, it's an ongoing thing. Like that's just how it is. One of the reasons I learned to use a computer was because writing my hand was painful. Like literally the way I grip a pencil or a pen, most people grip it between the two fingers there with the thumb on the other side. For me, that's difficult. I find that difficult, and so I, I resort to using a computer. Any time that it would come to write something, it was type it up and print it off. That to me was much easier. It's easier to do that for me than it is to write down something in pen and paper. And obviously, we're in an age now where computers are used so frequently that it's less of an issue because everybody's texting and messaging people with some sort of messaging service, and that's fine. I understand that. Like, so to me, it's less of an issue now than it would have been before, but it's still something that I'm aware of on a regular basis. There's plenty of support for people with dyspraxia, but to me, I've never really found that sort of stuff is helpful. Because the way I look at it is like I didn't even know what it was I had. I didn't fully understand how I was affected by this until I was like 18 when I started doing some research into it. And then obviously when I grew up a bit more, and I was 23 to 25 when I was at college, and we just sort of I was assessed and I was told that I had dyspraxia, and it was just like, oh, there's a name for this, and it's not just so another website that I'm looking at the moment is Dyspraxia Foundation .org.uk, and it's got a good interesting article on the symptoms of dyspraxia in adults as well, very specific to adults, which is important here that I'm saying this because a lot of people with dyspraxia is typically diagnosed in preschool and young children. very rarely is it diagnosed in adults, and usually, if so, you have to be diagnosed privately by a doctor. I was lucky in that when I was at college, they were willing to diagnose me with dyspraxia, because that's what they thought I had, and they diagnosed me and said, yes, indeed, I do have dyspraxia. And it's just having a name and a piece of paper tell you that that's what you've got. That to me is like, it just sort of like a weight off my mind, knowing that there's a name for it. And it's not just all these small little things that, you know, collectively make up a normal person. It's some of the things that I take for granted, that I see other people do on a regular basis and I can't. So I'm just going to go through the list and explain a little bit more about some of these as well. So poor balance is definitely something I struggle with. Standing up straight, I'm always slouched and always tilting forward, even now in my chair when I'm talking to you. It's just a common problem with me. Difficulty in riding a bicycle, going up and down hills. Yeah, definitely. Riding a bicycle in general for me took a long time to learn. I'm surprised I can still ride a bicycle. But growing up, everybody was riding bicycles. All my friends, my cousins. My cousins lived 3 miles away from my mum's house, so if I wanted to go see them in the summer, I had no money because we didn't have a lot of money growing up when I was growing up in my family. So I had to cycle or I'd have to walk. And I wanted a bicycle. I remember for one Christmas I got a bicycle, so I would cycle. And I had to learn to cycle, and it was a very difficult, long process of learning to cycle. But I managed it to the point where now I can cycle. It's not a problem. So yeah, the other issues with poor posture and fatigue. So again, my posture's pretty bad. My back is permanently has issues. I always have back pain if I walk too long. I sometimes wake up in the morning with my back in pain because I've slept at a funny angle or whatever it is, or my posture lying down isn't what it should be, and it's just a common problem with people with dyspraxia. But that's something I suffer from. People with dyspraxia have flat feet typically, and I do as well. I'm a bit heavy on my feet. I have exaggerated movements when I walk, and that's a lot of people have said that I look like Vince McMahon, for example, from WWE when I walk, and sort of excessively move my shoulders and my arms. It's not that I'm doing it on purpose. It's just that that's the way that I've learned to walk with this coordination. With the coordination I have. Poor integrations of the two sides of the body. Difficulty with some sports involving jumping and cycling. In general, just not a very good sporty person. And the idea of doing sport, to me, is just more embarrassment from growing up and doing things wrong continuously to the point where I was laughed at by a lot of people. And it's less such an issue now as an adult because I stay away from doing those things. But it was an issue, yes. Looking back, it was another symptom of me having dyspraxia. Poor hand-eye coordination. I've discussed before. Yeah, my hand-eye coordination isn't very good. Sometimes when I see, for example, a jug, like a cup or something on the side with liquid in it, like a drink, and I'll try to go pick it up, my hand will literally pretty much miss the glass sometimes. And I know it's there, but I just miss it completely. And it's very frustrating because I know where it is, and I know where I was aiming, but it's just not hitting the mark. I've been asked whether or not I would ever be able to drive a car. I would love to be able to, but most people with dyspraxia find it very difficult to drive a car, if at all. So I rely on public transport a lot. Walking, less cycling now than I did as a child, but more walking and taking public transport, so buses and trains and such. Lack of rhythm when dancing and doing aerobics. Well, I don't do any either of those, but the rhythm definitely. In my head, I can get rhythm down, no problem, and it struggles to go away. But when it comes to doing an action to a rhythm, like Dance Revolution, for example, couldn't even get the basics movements down. Let's see, exaggerated accessory movements when running or walking. Yep, definitely. When I run, apparently I have like a very weird Naruto style run when I put my arms back. I don't even realize I'm doing it, and it's quite embarrassing. A tendency to fall, trip, or bump into things and people. Definitely. I could go for a door frame sometimes. Just go through a door, an open door. and I will smack my shoulder on the door frame, even though I've said in my head that I'm at least 30, 40 centimeters away from the door frame. It's so consistent as well. That's the problem. It's not like it happens like all the time, but it does happen like enough that I smack my arm into it and just be like, yeah, that's quite annoying and painful, and I have to live with that for the rest of the day. So but that's the gross motor coordination skills. There are other fine motor coordination skills that are also affected. So small movements such as using cutlery, cleaning, cooking, ironing. I mean, this just sounds like at this point like I'm making things up, but I'm not. It's a problem. It's the way that my brain's telling my hands to do something, and I feel like that the signals are just not the way that I sent them. Like I said, I want my hand to do a certain action, and it doesn't do it the way I want it to, and that's really hard to explain to somebody who doesn't have that problem. Playing musical instruments, definitely. I've tried playing the keyboard, and obviously my typing skills is like this, 2 fingers, like I said before. So doing playing an actual musical keyboard to me is, I've tried playing a keyboard and it's so difficult to me. I can play very simple tunes with 2 notes, but that's about it. Poor manipulative skills such as typing, handwriting, drawing, that I've discussed before. Poor pen grip, press too hard when writing. You definitely can't draw when writing along a line. I can't. I will write through, above, below the line, not on it. It's bad. Inadequate grasp, difficult using tools and domestic implements such as locks and keys. Yeah, this is one that is a bit weird. I see a lock on a door and I've got the key in my hand, and obviously my hand-eye coordination, I'm going to put the key into the lock, and I'll miss and scrape the side of the lock continuously 3 or 4 times till I put the key in. It's every time. It's so frustrating because I know where it is, I know where I'm aiming, and I just can't get it. Difficult with dressing and grooming activities, shaving, doing my hair, fastening clothes, tying shoelaces. So this is a weird one because shaving is something that I used to just do all or nothing. And at the moment, obviously, I've got a beard grown out, but I like to typically go for a small circular goatee. But the problem with that is you have to shave the sides here, so from about here down to about there, curve it in. I can't do it myself. I get the barber to do it, which is kind of cheating, but that's to me, it's that or not at all. My hair, I wash it when I'm in the shower. I dry it. Doing anything else with it is just not going to happen. My clothes don't really have buttons or zips of any kind, apart from obviously my jeans, which makes life easier for me. Tying shoelaces is something I struggle with. I much prefer slip-on shoes. Vans are good for this. That's why I wear a lot of Vans. The slip-on trainers, very comfortable, and also means I don't have to worry about doing laces up. That actually goes back to when I was a child. That one of my nicknames was unfortunately Spackdaps due to my combination of my surname and the DAPs, as they're called in the UK, although they're also called plimsolls, and basically trainers, very generic black ones with very rubbery soles, very thin material, and you'd expect to wear them for PE. And I quite like them because there was no shoelaces, no fiddling about. You could just slip them on. So that's just as easy for me. Back to the list, of course. Poorly established hand dominance. May use either hand for different tasks at different times. So I write with my right hand, but I cut like food with a knife and fork using the knife in my left hand. So I do find that sometimes certain hands I use for different tasks, even though I say I'm right-handed, but my left hand is definitely used for other things that you'd expect my right hand to be used with because I'm right-handed. So it's not quite ambidextrous, but it's more establishing hand dominance for tasks is a problem. Okay, so some of the other things that are you might not associate. Speech and language. I've already discussed this, but I may talk continuously and repeat myself. That's very true. You've probably noticed by me talking now, that's definitely me. I have difficulty organizing the context and sequence of my language. I've partially read that. I didn't say that myself, that I would struggle. So may have unclear speech and be unable to pronounce some words. This is definitely true. Some words in my head say they're not a problem. Saying that loud, I struggle, so I have to repeat myself over and over until I say it right. Speak to me have uncontrolled pitch, volume, and rate, definitely, and that's more of an issue especially when recording my voice. The first couple of videos I did recording recently for developers commentary, yeah, the volume was so loud in the first episode, but it was a combination of the microphone recording my voice and the encoding that I did on it. I have no idea how half of this stuff works, so I thought it was fine in like pre-production, and that I didn't check it when I uploaded it to YouTube, and then obviously YouTube amplified it, made it even worse. So yeah, my apologies for that. Again, I apologize. I'm sorry about that. So yeah, eye movements, tracking, difficulty in following a moving object smoothly with eyes without moving head excessively. Yes. Yeah, it's one of those things when they do like eye tests when you're at the opticians and they say follow this moving object, and I struggle with it really badly. It is difficult. Poor relocation. Cannot look quickly and effectively from one object to another, looking from a TV to a magazine. So at the moment, I'm trying to read this and realizing that the webcam's above the text that I'm reading. So if it looks like I'm not addressing you directly, I am sorry. This is part and parcel of this. You know, I thought if I explain this in a video one day, which is what I'm doing now, then at least then people understand it. So there's quite a few more actually. I'll try and go from as quick as I can. There's not too much more to cover. A perception, so the interpretation of the different senses, which includes to poor visual perception. Yes, that's true. I have to wear glasses because my eyesight is apparently quite bad. Partially because I sat in front of the TV so close for so long when I was a child, but also just generally my eyesight is very good. Oversensitive to light, yes, that's a problem. It's not too bright in this room right now, but yeah, I don't like being outside when it's sunny. I don't like the heat, and I also don't like the light. It's too it's painful to even be like in the corner of my eye. Difficulty in distinguishing sounds from background noise, tendency to be oversensitive to noise. Yes, there are certain noises that literally I just can't stand. They make me cringe. Sellotape is one of them. You know, when you pull sellotape off a reel, polystyrene, packing peanuts, just the noise of somebody touching them, scraping across them. The material that kebabs come in. You know, when you go to a kebab shop and you get that, like that plastic polystyrene type material in the folded boxes. That I can't stand either. It's so bad. I literally just cringe. I can't help it. Over or under sensitive to touch can result in dislike of being touched and or aversion to over loose or tight clothing, tactile defensiveness. Yeah, I don't like being touched, and it just feels like an invasion of my personal space. And as such, I also like to wear loose clothing, which is even more difficult by the fact that, I'm quite a big guy, and I'm putting on weight. I mean, my weight's been quite steady for quite a while now, but it's finding clothes that's loose for me at this weight is difficult. So yeah, overall undersensitive to smell and taste, temperature and pain. Yeah, I am oversensitive to pain. I am oversensitive to temperature, and I'm undersensitive to smell because I have hyposmia, which is the lack of smell in certain scenarios. It's more like a reduction in how my smell works. So certain smells I just can't smell at all, and other ones are very I don't smell them, or I feel like I can taste them in the back of my mouth, which is a bit difficult to explain. So yeah, that's an issue. Yeah. Again, back to the temperature thing. Like I said, if it's too hot outside, don't like it. I just generally am really uncomfortable if I'm outside in temperature. And recently in the UK, we don't usually get like very much like sunny hot days, but we did have like some days, like 3 or 4 days in a row where it's like 25, 26 degrees outside. For me, that's too hot. But and it's not even that bad. But for me, that I just wasn't uncomfortable at being in it. So yeah. So yeah, lack of awareness of body position in space and spatial relationships can result in bumping into and tripping over things and people, dropping and spilling things. That's correct. That is definitely something I suffer from. Like I said, walking through doors, hitting a door frame with my shoulder or part of my body. Bumping into people in a crowded place is definitely something. I mean, obviously it can happen to anybody, but me more so. Dropping and spilling things is a problem as well, especially carrying mugs with liquid in them, a mug or a glass full of a drink. If I'm at the pub and someone says, "Oh, can you get me a drink as well?" Well, I'm holding two like glasses with drink and they're right to the top. I'm like this. My hands are shaking. I'm struggling to hold them both together because to me this is like to, doing so much at once that my brain sort of starts panicking. It's obviously holding this glass with my own hand, which is a problem of hand-eye coordination. Trying to maintain balance, which I don't have a lot of, and it's just generally difficult for me. So yeah, little sense of time, speed, distance, or weight leading to difficulties driving, cooking, etc. I mean, that's most of this was covered before, but yeah, time. Most of the time, I wear this watch, a Casio, very basic one, but will be lost without it for time. Speed, don't fully understand. Like I have a sense of speed, but if I'm in a car and we're driving at 40 miles an hour and then we're driving at 70, can't tell the difference. Like my body just can't tell the difference. Uh, Distance, judging that based on visual perception, but also like with movement, I struggle with that. And obviously, like I said, I don't drive. I don't think I ever will. Cooking is we've been covered before. So, inadequate sense of direction, difficulty distinguishing right from left means map reading skills are poor. This is actually something I don't suffer from, which surprises a lot of people. My sister struggles with left and right, and so does one of my friends. But me, I actually understand. For me, left, right, I don't even have to think about it too difficult, which is nice because it can be a problem for other people with dyspraxia. And again, I just want to reiterate that this isn't just like all the stuff that I suffer from. This is just a general oversight of people with dyspraxia might suffer from most, if not all, of these symptoms. I'll say most, a lot of them, and I've covered a lot of them that I do suffer from. That's why I'm trying to make sure that's clear. So we only got a couple more points left. Learning, thought, and memory. Difficulty in planning and organising thought. This is again what I just discussed before, but I feel like I have to organise my thoughts, and it can be stressful because I feel like I have to. It's a bit like a computer when you put files into folders, and you put the folders in a certain order in another folder. And I feel like I have to do that with my thoughts consistently and constantly rather. Otherwise, it just things just get messy in my head. Poor short-term memory. Yeah, I can forget things quite quickly. It's not that on purpose, and it's not that I'm being rude. It just can happen. Unfocused and erratic can be messy and cluttered. In my brain, yes. In the way I talk to people, yes. But not in like the cleanliness of my room, for example. I it's the other way around in that regard. My room, I have like OCD in the way that things have to be in a very certain way and place, and if they're not, I get very stressed out because of it. My brother is very prone to coming along and seeing the way I've got things on top of my desk and just like, tilting a pencil at a slight angle or whatever it is, and I'm just getting really, really frustrated because I feel like you've moved something which should have been moved. Um, Accuracy problems, difficulty with copying sound, writing, movements, proofreading. Again, writing and movements problem already discussed. Proofreading is not less an issue, but more. It's less a spelling issue, but more a grammar issue when it comes to me writing. Spelling is a problem, but grammar is definitely something that I struggle with, and somebody else could read it back and struggle to understand what I'm trying to get my point across. Difficulty following instructions and difficulty with concentration. I've lumped these two together, but yeah, it's just following instructions, especially if it's more than one at one time, I get a bit flustered. Concentration, I can get easily distracted. I agree. Even now, talking to you is, so many thoughts in my head that telling me why am I doing this, and telling me to do other things, more important things to do. But yeah, definitely an issue. May do only one thing at a time properly, though may try to do many things at once. Yeah, I laugh because this is especially true in my work environment. Sometimes I'll be given a task and it'll consist of 3 or 4 things, and I'll focus on one of those things and then get a bit flustered as to why none of the other things have been touched. So then I'll stop midway and then start another one of those tasks. And it's difficult, but I'm managing it as best as I can. So And finally, this category is slow to finish a task, may daydream and wander about aimlessly. This can happen in my head, yes. A task that should be quick, I sometimes take a little bit longer to finish, and it's not because I want to. It's just because I feel like my thoughts just wander, and it's not intentional. I feel like I have very little control over that. That part of my brain and thought process. So yeah, difficulty in listening to people, especially in large groups, can be tactless, interrupt frequently, problems with teamwork. So this can be a problem, but less so for me. The only issue that I really have is the interruption, and I used to interrupt people a lot. Now I have the opposite problem where I don't interrupt. I feel like I don't say something even if I have a point to say, and it's a little frustrating, but that's just what happens. I'd rather that though than feel like I'm interrupting. And then usually, if I do have a point that hasn't been brought up, I can then pass it to them afterwards, let them know. And if they ask me, which has happened before, why didn't you say anything? I feel like I just say to them, I felt like I was interrupting you. So that's my way of dealing with that. Difficulty in picking up non-verbal signals or in judging tone or pitch of voice in themselves and or others. Oh yes. So I get told a lot that I need to stop being so angry and being so miserable, to cheer up a bit. But it's not that I am any of those things. It's just that the tone that I'm putting across is, sometimes a bit angry or not happy, not cheerful or anything. And it's not that at all. My thoughts in my head are completely different. My emotion could be I could be I could be feeling really happy, really good, and I still have the same tone or pitch of my voice, and people don't understand. Like, I feel like I have to explain things to them. Yeah, a tendency to take things literally, may listen but not understand. Yeah, this is something that I have a problem with. I take a lot of things literally, not by choice, just because that's the way that I approach things. And again, most people with dyspraxia might have the same problem. Take things literally without even realizing they're doing it. And somebody could say something as a joke, and you take it literally, and you go, "That was a joke," and you go, "Was it?" And this is what I do. I'm like, "That was a joke." Oh, okay, I'm sorry. And now you're apologizing, and you feel bad that you didn't get the joke, and that makes the whole situation really awkward. Happens a lot. Yeah. Slow to adapt to new or unpredictable situations. Sometimes avoids them altogether. Yeah, that's definitely me. That's makes me reasons why I'm antisocial. The idea of going to the pub to meet new people, the idea of meeting new friend circles or trying something new and different, it just terrifies me sometimes. Like, it's taken me a long time to get to the point where I will go to, you know, the pub on a Friday or Saturday evening with my brother and some of his mates, or one of my best mates and his friends. But um, but I'm happy doing that now because I'm less worried about the unpredictability of the situation. So, um, impulsiveness, tendency to be easily frustrated, wanting immediate gratification. Um, Impulsive, not so much me. I'm kind of the other way. I overanalyze and overthink it too much to the point where I don't even do anything impulsive. Tendency to be easily frustrated and wanting immediate gratification is definitely something I suffer from. It's not intentional, but sometimes I feel like if I achieve something, I want something as a result of it. And that may sound a bit conceited, and but it's. I assure you, that's not the way it's supposed to come across. Not at all. It's more just I want a response from what I've done. Whether it be some sort of physical or emotional response to what I've done, good or bad. Otherwise, I feel like, well, what's the point? Why have I spent this time doing it? A tendency to be erratic and have good and bad days. That's correct, I do. Today, for example, feels like a good day to me. Yesterday was a good day too, which is nice. Friday was a bad day. I just generally felt like I woke up in the morning, I knew it was going to be a bad day. Everything felt like it was going wrong. And this is how it is for me. Like, some days are good, some days are bad. But I sometimes wake up and I know it's going to be a good day, or I know it's going to be a bad day. I just generally get bogged down in my head with some pure emotion of good and bad, and not like you know good versus evil, but just good and bad days. Like, today was a good day, even though it was very little different from the other day that was bad. you know, they don't really weigh out, but that's just how I feel in my head. You know, a tendency to opt out of things that are too difficult. Not so much me. I mean, I sometimes if things are too difficult, I want to break them down into easier tasks. I don't think that's unreasonable. But sometimes it has been a case of I've literally found something, the concept or prospect of it so difficult that I've put it off or said, "Oh, I'll come back to this later," and just haven't done it. I feel bad the saying that that's happened, but it's true, it has. Emotions as a oh, sorry, I'm reading headers. That's not good. Tend to get stressed, depressed, and anxious easily. Yeah, very true. All three of the above. Stressed out, yeah, that happens a lot. Even today, I've been stressed out by a few small, insignificant things. Um, Even now, I can't even remember what they are, but I know I felt like it. Depressed, like I said, I've had suffered from depression before, but it's less severe depression, like people who are like medically diagnosed with it and have to like you know, take something for it or see somebody about it. It's more just general behavior and the way I feel, and especially anxiety. Anxiety I suffer from a lot. Being too early, what happens if this happens when I see my mum, my brother, or when I get home, what if I haven't done this? And my housemate says something, and it's overanalyzing and overthinking a lot of things. So then anxiety then kicks in, and it's just a continuous problem sometimes. Like today, it's not too bad for me. I'm seem to be dealing with things quite well, so that's how it is. May have difficulty sleeping. I not so much me actually. I mean, I don't sleep as much as I like to, but then I think that's normal, isn't it? Um, getting to sleep isn't a problem. It's just I feel like I don't. My body wakes me up too early, and I have an alarm for work, but not the weekends. But even then, I struggle to sleep as much as I'd like to, and I wake up feeling like I could have slept another hour, and it wouldn't have made a difference. And finally, prone to low self esteem, emotional outbursts, phobias, fears, obsessions, compulsions, and addictive behavior. I'll break this down because it's a lot in one bullet point. So, low self esteem, definitely. It's less so now, but something I've slowly dealt with over the years and tried to progress. But yeah, I do have low self esteem when it comes to many things. In general, my self esteem levels are very low. Emotional outbursts, yeah, I do get angry very quickly, and but not like angry in the way that I'm gonna like do anything physical. Just like my tone raises in my voice. The pitch raises. I get a bit angrier. I get a bit shoutier. I get a bit more in people's faces, and I really wish I didn't. But it's true. Phobias. I do have a crippling phobia of spiders. It's terrible phobia. Like I'm never kidding. Tiny ones, like a couple of millimeters, not a problem. But anything bigger than that, I can't do it. It's always been that way. Fears. Yeah, I mean, I have like I suffer from anxiety a lot. Very close to being a fear. Um, Fear of having no money and the fear of being homeless or losing my job. And even though I've done nothing to cause that, it's a continuous thing for me. Every single day before I get to work, I'm like in my head, like, what if randomly my boss turns around to me today and goes, "Yeah, Andrew, I have to let you go," or and the whole world, everything in my life just crumbles because of that, and it's a constant fear, and it doesn't make any sense to me because I've got no reason to believe that would happen, but it's a fear. So, and it's there. Obsessions, yeah, I am obsessed with collecting things. Actually, I have an obsession with Sonic the Hedgehog. Quite obvious on my YouTube channel, obviously. But it's not like overly obsessive. It's just that I'm a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog, and I collect all the Sonic games. And I've also got like Sonic memorabilia and Sonic this, Sonic that, and Sonic clothing. And even now, yeah, a bit hard to see, but it's got to go fast. Sonic t-shirt. But yeah, it's just one of the things in my life, and that goes into the next point of compulsion. So I have, like I said, OCD with the way that my room is laid out and the way it places things are in my room. I have a compulsion to buy things when I see them and then afterwards regret it. Like, I'll be like, I'm going to buy that for my game collection, and then be like, why have I done that? And that goes back to addictive behavior as well. It's not too bad. I mean, my dad used to have a problem with gambling, and he would do it to the point where he would just gamble money he didn't have. Gambling is something that doesn't affect me too bad, but I do have like an addiction to like the buzz you get when you win, and I try to stop myself from getting myself in a scenario where I could win or lose. I really don't want to. Like, I hate the idea of being in that situation. So yeah. Um, So yeah, that's all the points I've covered, and apologies for taking so long. As it says here, many of these characteristics are not unique to people with dyspraxia, and not even the most severe case will have all the above characteristics. But adults with dyspraxia will tend to have more than their fair share of coordination and perceptual difficulties. So, as discussed, obviously before up to this point, most of those I suffer from. Good majority of them. And that's now that I know what it is, and I know that it's not just me being me, and I have to deal with a huge list of things in different ways. It's all down to the fact that I have dyspraxia, or developmental coordination disorder, as it's also called. It's nice to put a name on it, and I just wanted to make this video really more to, make people aware of, how it is living with dyspraxia, and it has its fair share of difficulty, but at the same time, it's not impossible to live with. And I know that obviously, basically, this is after the fact. But if you have any questions you want to ask me, feel free to ask. I can tell you exactly how it is. And if anybody else out there is an adult with dyspraxia, or you're a child with a dyspraxia, or you're a teenager with dyspraxia, and you want to get some opinion on how I deal with things, it might even be that I don't deal with them as well as you do, and you could give me some information, or I even found a way to cope with something, and you want to know whether, because you have dyspraxia, whether you're affected the same way, or whatever it is. Just feel free to drop me a message in any way, shape, or form, and I will happily get back to you on it, because, like I said, it's something that I'm going to be dealing with for the rest of my life, and if I can make your life easier, then I would love to be able to do so. But I would also love to share the way that I deal with my life with dyspraxia with other people who do, and that would be amazing to me. Just to even so near to go, I've got dyspraxia, and how do you deal with this? I'm like, oh yeah, I deal with that way. And they go, awesome, we're aware of it. Cool. So thank you very much for spending the time to watch this ridiculously long video. I haven't done anything like this before. And I apologize for the fact this probably is incredibly awkward, and it just doesn't really fit the rest of my videos on my channel. But it's me. This is who I am. I am DA Garden, and I have dyspraxia, and this is how I deal with it. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I might see you again soon in the future. Okay, thank you. Bye.